I want to get into the media aspect, but also the cap situation with the Vancouver Canucks, only because your good friend Thomas Drance got into a bit of a, I would say, pissing contest, but that was quite literally what he was called out for by Andrew Walker of Sportsnet on 650. Um, I think there's been so much misconstrued about this on social media, and being in the business, you and I know, if Jason Botchford had reported something that the Canucks were in cap trouble, or Tony Gallagher, who we just saw go into the Hockey Hall of Fame, if they had reported this stuff, it can come off as an opinion. People can say you lie, that you fabricate, but you generally know that you've got that from someone you trust that has told you, yes, this is happening. They don't want it attributed to them. So this report comes out that the Canucks have looked at the possibility of moving Brock Boeser.
Right.
In my opinion, they would be negligent if they didn't. If
Yeah.
you're a general manager, you have to look at every scenario on the table, and you kick rocks around. Publicly, of course, you've got to come out. You cannot let your player know that he's an asset that you don't want or you're looking to get more. So the reaction is completely, you can say someone's lying, not telling the truth, whatever. I would think a GM, there's not a player on that roster, including Quinn Hughes, that if the right scenario was there, would you consider it? I think these are conversations that a proactive front office always has to have with the people inside that circle. So, number one, the Canucks will have cap issues. We know this. You can't just write that off as fans being negative. But I think this is the media's job. I see all this stuff. The timing of it is terrible. It's not the media's job to decide what will benefit the team. When a report comes out, if someone in that inner circle tells you, Matt Sakaris in this case, about, they're looking at moving Brock Boeser, or they've looked at the options that would be on the table in terms of players they could keep.
Right.
Of course you would do that. You run with the story when you have it. Thomas Drance writes a story about the Canucks cap hell. He gets a rock thrown at him by the guy on the other radio station at 650. Here we have this mini Canucks soap opera. Where do you stand on this?
Well, soap opera for it. No, I mean, it's an issue. I mean, we've written about it plenty. I obviously have appeared on, Walker's show. We've talked about it there. There is a bit of a posturing aspect to all this, of course. You can live in denial. There's an aspect of, I suppose, Canucks fans that don't want to hear about the cap, and that's fair enough. You're allowed, but there's a large percentage that do. And the cap is a problem. It's a challenge. And that's what we're here to talk about. I mean, it's pretty simple. The timing thing's hilarious. I mean, it's a bit like hearing about Austin Matthews saying, well, I didn't like being outed. And it's like, well, maybe you shouldn't have been talking to people in Arizona so that this word gets leaked out. It's not, this isn't an idle thing sitting around. If you want people to respect your privacy, well, you need to understand how privacy works. And that's our job in the end. There are bigger issues at play. It's the cap. There's the idea of an NHL bubble. I mean, they're all the same kind of question. And if there's a newsworthy item, obviously sports is a bit different because we're not talking about climate change or taxes or, things that have daily direct impact on our lives. It's about stuff that makes us happy or sad or sometimes both. And at the end of the day, it's a true fact. The Canucks are up against the cap. They're going to have some challenges. They've got a bunch of free agents they want to sign. That's news. That's what this job is. So, it was all a bit weird to sit back and look at it. And like you said, you're like Brock Boeser. Like, of course, of course they're going to listen in on things like that. You'd be negligent not to. I mean, you would also be negligent to give Brock Boeser away for nothing just because you're trying to find cap room. I mean, there are lots of difficult decisions to be made, but that's certainly not one you want to do just to make yourself some cap room. That much is clear to me.
When the kind of stuff flares up like it did, with people calling each other names and Canucks social media, the fans all getting involved, what's the reaction amongst the beat reporters in the Canucks sort of media community?
Well, I mean, obviously we talk to each other. I mean, it is in a weird way it's our own kind of gossip, I mean, it's sort of like, who said this, who said that. I mostly just kind of sit back and laugh about it because obviously I know most of the people involved, and I don't have quite the beef with anybody else. I think that maybe other people's do, certainly. I mean, it was always amazing. You brought up Broch, but it was always amazing. Sometimes you'd see them, and part of it was real, and some of it was just pro wrestling, and that's how some of that is. Some of that, it is especially. I would say especially in the sort of radio, where that is. It was better than I do, but it is part of what makes the medium work. You can't just sit around and have everybody agree with each other all the time.
Yeah.
And that's some of it. So, it is kind of interesting to watch. And, I think selfishly for me, I mean, radio, I mean, I've done it. I've been doing the Sportsnet stuff pretty regularly now since January. But it's one of those ones where I sit back, okay, well, that's interesting. That's how you frame it. Was that how I would have done it? I do try to turn it into a bit of professional development, but then again, I'm a bit of an odd duck that way. I'm not sure everybody else is doing that.
We brought up Botch, and believe me, there were lots of conversations that he and I had behind the scenes when stuff like this would flare up that we couldn't report on. That I said to him, you just can't do that. You don't have it nailed down. It's just it's innuendo, it's gossip. It's too damaging, and it'll blow back on me because I would shield him from that stuff. But it was still salacious nonetheless and kind of funny. I don't know that I mean, there have been some big personalities, Mike Gillis, Brian Burke, in that GMC, Pat Quinn, obviously. I don't know that I've seen Canuck fan base or media as polarized on one guy as I have with Jim Benning. Is he aware that there are Benning bros and bitter bros? That sort of this whole division on where you look at this franchise seems to come down to your views on the general manager. Has he ever raised this, that he knows this debate is out there?
No, but, I mean, he's a guy that he certainly knows some aspects of what's being discussed. There's no doubt about it. And, he's not one generally when I've spoken with him to go directly at it. Obviously there have been stories, the Judd Brackett story, there was early on when that was sort of starting to bubble up, I called him up to ask him a bit about it. And, he's trying to probe himself, trying to figure out, for instance, how you're figuring out your information. And, but he's not oblivious to it. I mean, in the end, he has a staff of people who that is their job. I mean, obviously, it is partly to help, help us get our stories, but, that's part of their job. They want to know what's going on. I mean, it is the modern world. Every company has a communication staff whose job is trying to, get the best message possible for them out there and understand what's being written and what's being said and what's being said on video. So, yeah, I mean, he's not oblivious. I don't know if he knows he would go to the depths of saying, oh, I know that there's bitter bros and Benning bros, but anything's possible.
Time, Patrick. I got to ask you to, at some point this week, you've got to ask Jim if he has a message for the Benning bros out there. See what his reaction is.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll have to make do with the Canucks soap opera up until they actually drop the puck in some games. So thanks for your time, Patrick. I'll let you get back to the rink.
Take care, Paul.